Hey Corkies, welcome back. Today we got a bourbon review. It's been a little while since we've done a bourbon review. This is the Basil Hayden's, and it comes out of the Jim Beam line from the Beam Suntory Distillery. Stay tuned. Hello everybody, welcome back to corkandjava.com. I'm Billy, and we all know you're supposed to get joy and fascination from even the little things in life that most people take for granted. So here at Cork and Java, we're here to expand and enrich your experience with all of your favorite beverages through wine and coffee and other beverage reviews and how-tos. So if you're new here and that sounds interesting, consider hitting that subscribe button down below and that little bell so you're notified when our future videos come out. All right, the Basil Hayden's bourbon, straight bourbon whiskey out of course, Kentucky. I want to read a little bit about it that they gave us on this cool label here because there's some history, and I just love the craft and art that goes into something that is as timeless as back in the 1700s. I mean, that's a long time, that's way past Prohibition, and for them to still be making the same whiskey, respecting the original mash, is something really special. So I wanted to take the time to read what they presented to us. When Basil Hayden Sr. began distilling his smooth bourbon here in 1796, Kentucky was but 4 years old and George Washington was president. Today, we make Basil Hayden's Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey using the same skill and care that made it a favorite among America's frontier settlers. Artfully aged in Kentucky hillside rack houses, then bottled at a smooth 80 proof, Basil Hayden's sophisticated taste remains true to the old family recipe. With more rye than a traditional bourbon and its trademark spicy finish, it's easy to enjoy Basil Hayden's in any way you like. Now, like it said, it's gonna be rye heavy. It's actually, the mash bill is 63% corn, 27% rye, and the remaining 10% is malted barley, I believe. So no wheat or anything in there. All right, so this, like I mentioned in the beginning, comes from the Beam Suntory Distillery, which is the same distillery that makes Knob Creek, if you like that. And also, it has a lot of those Japanese whiskeys, as well as the Beam Suntory is a Japanese multinational distilling company there. I do like the Suntory whiskeys a lot, so be interested to see how this is. Now, looking at the color, it's a nice kind of golden, but it's got a little bit of hay color to it. It's not super dark for a bourbon, but I would say it's kind of middle of the road there with respects to color. I do like that very nice golden kind of color there. A little bit of amber. On the nose, I'm getting kind of a sweetness. A little bit of honey, a little cedar, a little bit of like floral bouquet as well. We'll see how that translates here on the palate. Definitely kind of a creamy butterscotch note. Definitely very buttery, and overall, it's a very light-bodied bourbon. It doesn't have a huge oily kind of mouthfeel. It's very kind of light in that respect. And despite it having such a high rye content at 27%, it's not overly spicy. It does have a spice finish, but you're not punched in the face with like a rye kick, as I like to call it, with the more heavier rye. It does taste a little bit hot. I'm sure if you dilute it with a drop or two of water, that would change things up a little bit, probably open it up a little bit. yeah, it's very delicate for a rye. Well, it's not technically a rye whiskey, but it's got a high rye content for just a normal bourbon, where like stuff like your Buffalo Trace has like almost no rye in it at all. But I really like the balance of this. It is not super complex, but that's kind of expected with a lighter bodied kind of bourbon. The age, they used to age it minimum 8 years, but they took that off of it, so there is no guarantee that it's going to be aged all 8 years. They're going to be blending various barrels together to try to get that uniform taste in every bottle. Pretty much with every mass-produced bourbon or whiskey, they're going to try to go for consistency. And without that age on there, I'm assuming it's probably up there around 8 for most of it. And it could be this bottle is all over 8, but you just don't know. It could be some less, some more. But based on history, I'm guessing that's probably going to be about the average. So yeah, I would consider this kind of a mid-shelf bourbon. And it's a very nice one. If you haven't tried it, it's different than most of the other ones that I've had. There's not something I can really compare it to because it kind of stands out on its own. I don't know any that have these rye characteristics but are also such light-bodied for a whiskey. Definitely leave me a comment down below with what other bourbons or whiskeys that you really like that you want me to try and showcase here on the channel. I'd like to know. Make sure you're checking us out on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on all those places online. So until next time, bottoms up.